The West is rallying behind Ukraine after Volodymyr Zelenskyy and Donald Trump's trainwreck showdown at the White House over the weekend. Allies scrambling to salvage the situation.
We are at a crossroads in history today.
The peace of a continent on a knife's edge.
Once in a generation moment for the security of Europe.
18 leaders from Europe and Canada rushing to London for crisis talks. King Charles among those standing with Ukraine's president.
This is not a moment for more talk. It's time to act.
I stand with Volodymyr Zelenskyy, and I stand with the people of Ukraine.
The group closing ranks around Ukraine after an epic spat between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelenskyy rocked Western diplomacy as we know it.
If you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
In 3 days, I heard it from Putin.
It was extraordinary diplomacy, I must say, or perhaps failure diplomacy.
Members of Trump's team today doubling down.
We'll be ready to re-engage when they're ready to make peace, which is clearly what the president's goal is here.
But the UK is adamant Europe's relationship with the US is still on firm ground.
I do not accept that the US is an unreliable ally. The US has been a reliable ally to the UK for many, many decades.
Zelenskyy, too, confident Ukraine can salvage a key minerals deal, left unsigned by Trump in the fracas.
From our side, we are ready to sign. I honestly think the United States will be ready as well. Maybe they need time to analyse some things.
UK PM Keir Starmer presenting a 4-point plan to end the war and bring Donald Trump back into the fold.
To ensure that we stay in lockstep with the United States.
On the table, billions more European defence dollars for the war effort, putting Ukraine at the centre of any peace talks and boosting its defence capabilities to deter future invasions.
Fourth, we will develop a coalition of the willing to defend a deal in Ukraine and to guarantee the peace.
The UK promising boots on the ground if necessary. Canada not ruling out sending in its own peacekeepers down the track.
As I've said a few days ago, everything's on the table.
Back home, our own pollies were in lockstep with their European allies.
We regard this as an issue of doing what's right, but also what is in Australia's national interest.
President Zelenskyy is a modern-day hero. He's a war hero and he deserves support.
So as the West ramps up its support and Trump digs in, where does all this leave Ukraine?
Well, Ina Sovsun is a Ukrainian opposition MP and is here to give us her take on the situation. Ina, what's the feeling in Ukraine been about all of this?
Well, I think it's fair to say that the first feeling we had was that of a shock. We just couldn't believe that this is actually happening, that this is happening in the Oval. And second, when we started thinking about what caused that shock, I think it was this extreme feeling of injustice, that it was the president of the country that has been attacked by Russians, who is being, well, bullied in the Oval. Yet at the same time, the same administration is being nice and cozy to the Russians. So we have to talk to them, but nobody wants just to give up on America, and nobody hopes that, you know, this is a done deal and nobody talks to DC any longer.
European leaders got together very quickly. What do you make of what you've seen out of that meeting today?
Well, it went better than we expected. There were some promises of additional weapons that were to be delivered. There was a conversation about the ceasefire, of course, which is still a bit unclear about the exact terms of what is being offered. So it's very difficult to comment on that. I think it's a bit too early to say. But in general, our feeling is that it went better than we expected.
That message, it's still based on winning the US over here for European leaders. So do you think that's realistic?
I believe that at the end of the day, both Ukrainians, Europeans, Americans, Australians, we all share the same values at our core. We all believe in democracy, we all believe in human rights and in respect to human dignity. I think that is the most important thing. That is what differentiates us from Russians, who are the aggressive state in this matter. So I think it's something that we have to keep in mind. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be something that we just, I don't know, President Zelenskyy calls back President Trump and then fixes everything. No, it's going to take time. It's going to take a while, and it's going to take efforts. But I don't want to see the divide between Europe and America, because, and that's critically important to remember, there will be only one winner if that divide takes place, and his name is Vladimir Putin.
So, are you saying that if the US were to wipe its hands and just walk away, that Europe couldn't step in and provide sufficient help, that it's just not enough, that America has to, there is no way without the US?
Well, there is a way. It's scary. It's not something that we take easily, but based on the briefings we have had from the Ministry of Defense, it's going to be difficult for us without American aid. But there is substitutes in Europe and in other allies countries that can help us in terms of military aid. So it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be doable.
What a time it is and what a moment it is for Ukraine and indeed for the world watching on. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me, and thank you, Australians, for all your support.